Sensual.
One more time.
Sensual.
One more.
Sensual.
I'm going to be talking about my personal connection with trees and plants and leaves, and right now it's going to be with plants. And I use two approaches. So one is called deep listening, and the other one is gazing. So deep listening. For deep listening, I'm not trying to use the energy of the plant or to merge into the plant. I'm just, what I want to do is opening up to the vibration of the plant. And I will breathe, and then I will keep quiet. This particular part of the meditation is supposed to be much longer than that, but for the sake of time, I will just stop, and because it needs time for you to enter in this particular mood of meditation, and it's very, very slow, and it takes some time. But I will just do the other one, which is the gazing. And the gazing, it's very similar, except that I will do some mudras, I mean some gesture with my hands. And I will focus on some particular aspect of the leaves. And the idea is to pour a lot of love on those leaves. So I'll just stop here, but it's supposed to be much longer than that.
All right. My name is Nicole Davis, and I have decided to start a YouTube channel to celebrate my crazy new obsession with plants. So I was infamous for being the girl that killed all the plants until quarantine happened. And so I also was kind of infamous as the girl that loved to have lots of personalities around me. And so to fill kind of that void, I ended up with, well, a lot of houseplants. And so now I want to create a show that kind of combines all the things that bring meaning and joy to my life. And so it would be plants, painting, and poetry. And so through a series of shows, I'm going to introduce you to different artists. Like today we're speaking with Marthe Aponte, who is an incredible, I mean, where do I even start? Performance artist, philosopher, painter. Her focus right now is on picoté, which is, you might want to explain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yes. Good to see you.
So my name is Marthe Aponte, and I'm an artist, and also, you know, what you just said. So lately my new form of expression or is picoté. So picoté is a French word, and it has to do with a practice that was performed by nuns, French nuns in convent in the 17th century, in the 1600s, and they would pray while decorating the edge of holy pictures. So they would have in the center of the picture, they would have like Christ, and the edge, and they would use a needle and they would poke holes in the paper. And one day I found a book about this. I even didn't know the word existed, picoté, and I fell in love with it, and I have developed a vocabulary. I have all type of holes. Some are small, some are big, some are, all type of things. So that's what I am doing right now. But the main topic for my picoté are plants, leaves, flowers, trees, and women. And so that's why I suppose you asked me to participate, and I thank you so much for inviting me to talk about the plants and the connection that we have with plants, and they could be wonderful companions. Even right now with the COVID, we are a little bit isolated. And in my house, I have a ficus, huge, absolutely huge. It's a tree. It takes like half of my dining room, and every morning I hug it.
Yeah.
I hug that tree, and then I talk to the tree, and yes, we are very good friends.
I've met your ficus.
And I've told everybody, you know who's my best friend? Oh, is it John? No, my best friend.
My ficus.
A tree in my house. So
Did you ever name your ficus?
No.
No. It's just ficus.
Yeah. No, it's just tree.
Tree. Got it.
Yes. Yeah.
It is a beautiful tree, and it's a lot to hug. I would say that it takes up at least a third of your downstairs. It's an indoor tree.
Yeah, and several people have told me you should trim it, and I say never, never, because I want it to invade the whole space.
That is the happiest tree I've ever met, and it lives in your living room. I don't know. So I mean, sometimes I struggle with like taking plants out of their natural environment, but like, I don't know. I also love how they teach us how to listen and care for life in a much more meaningful way. It reminds me a lot of your picoté, because to raise a plant takes a lot of time, and the picoté, of course, is really kind of like documenting the art of recognizing time, like celebrating time, because it takes so much time to make. And then in the end, it's so sensory. Like, all I want to do, I shouldn't, and I won't do it. Actually, I'm probably going to buy one so I could do it one day, but I just want to pet your art, like when I see it, because it's like embossing, right? So there's just something so sensual about it.
And so also it's a little bit violent. Because I realize that I'm poking holes and I'm piercing, and so my co-worker is the light, because I have the opaque paper and I pierce holes, and then all of a sudden I reveal the light, and I have a lot of picoté that are in light boxes, so I work with the light and the opacity and then the texture and just several elements that So I say violent because of the fact I was even wondering, why am I using that piercing? And I pierce, I don't know, and I hear the sound of it, and I enjoy it. Yes.
Well, it's pleasurable, right? Like, okay, so
but it could be also very spiritual. Yes, spiritual, sensorial, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I feel like plants do the same thing. So plants, of course, like they're co-conspirators, the light. They're such little divas. Like I love plants like this Swiss cheese plant, which literally grows a leaf and then starts sculpting itself, right?
Like lace.
Yes, yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's a naughty little plant, right? Like it sculpts itself into something.
Yeah.
Something that's self-pierced. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like we had talked about Derrida and the etymology of things, and we also talked about how in art, like, the word sensual sometimes is overlooked, or maybe people think it's too sentimental or base. But in the tradition of Derrida, I've taken my phone and I've looked up the etymology, and I think it's so interesting because the etymology of sensual is very different from sensuality. So sensual is from the early 15th century, and it means carnal, like carnal pleasure. And it actually has the connotation of being unspiritual, which I think is really interesting. It's of or pertaining to the senses.
Sensual.
And, but it also means to be endowed with feeling. So I feel like this is a very confused word, right? It also has the connotation of being lewd or unchaste.
Sensual.
So
Lewd or unchaste?
lewd or unchaste is like it's like a naughty. Naughty. I don't know.
Loose. Oh, unchaste. Yes.
So maybe that's why. Maybe that's like why they direct you towards a different word. But when I first looked it up, I did not look up the word sensual. I looked up the word we were talking about, which was sensuality, and that word does have spirituality linked to it. And so it comes from the Latin, and it has to do with like a capacity for sensation. It has to do with being endowed with feeling. And then it comes down to being filled with a sense of fullness. So pleasure to a state of fullness. And that could sound really naughty, but I don't think it's as naughty as it sounds, right? Like, I don't think it's the same sort of like, I don't think it's the same thing as when we talk about like a fullness and sexuality. I think it's something different, which to me feels kind of spiritual. So I'm really interested in how sensual and sensuality, I mean, they're essentially the same word, but I feel like they have really different connotations, right? So
yeah, and also I'm thinking about in Christianity, a Western society, the Western civilization, this dichotomy, the separation between the body and the spirit. So everything that has to do with the body is considered something like negative that you shouldn't talk about. Or also there is the Puritan influence of the Victorian age, and not to talk about the body. The body is anyway. So I can see that can understand why this particular art critique would say, you mean sensorial, because sensorial is something more scientific. It's it's just a listing of senses, sense of sight, but the other one has this other dimension, which is the dimension of the body and then the pleasure of the body, and there is no control of the mind on the body. So the body is like loose, and the body is talking, and this is not acceptable.
wow.
So in some particular, not everywhere, of course, in some circles. But when I touch this, I touch this now, for example, I'm touching it, and it's sensuality.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I was touching it before, that was different. I was in a different mood. So you can touch it and have completely different relationship with the plant that you're touching. Could be something like very okay. Let's stop here.
yeah. I can actually see that in your art too, right? Because it is something very spiritual. And you're also very confused by it because it's also something very physical, right?
Yeah, yes.
Almost violent is what you said, right?
Yeah, but also my daughter was telling me, but Mom, don't you see that this is a penetration? What you did, this is a huge phallus, and then you have, and I said, but I don't see it. I don't see this at all. I don't.
Right.
And several people have told me, oh, this is very feminine. So they try to you. What is interesting is, what surprised me is that this special effort to avoid certain words. For example, it's very feminine. Instead of saying that it is sensuous, feminine.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So feminine, they're not naming even the organs or the yeah. So.
Yeah, but instead.
Yeah, feminine. So okay, feminine is not dangerous. It's okay. It's a word that everybody's going to be happy with. And
but meanwhile, we'll secretly be sensuous with our art.
Yes.
And our plants.
Yeah, I mean we can be. We can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, it's a pleasure of feeling like it's because this is very similar to a skin.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's very important to touch and to be touched. So of course the plant is not going to touch you. So, yeah, that could.
I think it feels this better. I don't know.
But just to touch it, I think it's.
I feel we'll probably edit this part out, honestly, but it's just like when I brought you that gift when I was trying to seduce you into coming over to my house to talk about sensuality. But I brought you a nymphoid, which is basically like they're these succulents that are supposed to look like stones.
Yes.
But you're like, Nicole, it just feels like a giant ball sack. Feel it.
That's right.
I didn't even think about that when I gave it to you, but you know, it kind of worked with the theme, you know.
Yes.
And just to keep us on track too, because there's a third point here, which is poetry. And this is actually one of my favorite points in poetry. It's by John Keats, who was supposed to be a doctor, but he just couldn't. I mean, he was born to be a poet, not a doctor. Mm-hmm. But he uses this bad, like, metaphor, like medical metaphor, to kind of explain how poetry works. And it's the pleasure thermometer. So, pleasure thermometer.
Oh.
And so for him, what a good poem does, for him, he was really afraid that the past is trying to consume us with all of these regrets and concerns from the past. Mm-hmm. And then the future is really consuming us with like worries and also expectations. And so what can happen is an entire life can be devoured by the past and the future, mm-hmm. and you're never in the moment. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, what a poem does is it takes you off of that linear line. So you're no longer dealing with the past or the present. You're working on a vertical line of sensation. So how happy and joyful are you going to be? Or how woeful and melancholy can you possibly be, right? Mm-hmm. And so for him, poetry was taking you out of the time, like the timeline, so that you could be alive, so that you could own your life for a little bit. And he did that through being sensual, like sensual language. Like he also talked about to write about the tree, you have to be the tree, which means you have to like climb the tree and be with it. If you want to write about the lake, then you need to dive into the lake and be with the lake, which is kind of what your meditation with the plants reminded me of. Like if you're going to make visual art about plants, then you kind of have to, you know, surrender and be one with the plants.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
And then you get to have your life. You get to claim your life because it's you feeling it. It's you living it.
Yeah, except that it's very difficult to forget our ego and then forget about our preoccupation. For example, when I had my head, you know, I did it on purpose to really bury my head inside the plant, because I wanted the plant to take possession of my thoughts and everything, and so I could be free to really to be with the plant, because there is always this obstacle of ideas, of things that we want or we're thinking or we're. I remember this is the story of Ramakrishna. I don't know if you are familiar. He was a saint in India in the 19th century, and he had a devotee who was a very wealthy lady. And so he was talking to her, and all of a sudden he realized that this person was not there. She was there physically, but so he slapped her face, and started to the okay, you know, now, here and now, here and now. No, it's very difficult to be in the here and now. So it's even you need to practice it a lot to really be in the present moment, like Thich Nhat Hanh. We talk so much about the present moment.
That helps me a lot when you talk about your art being violent too, right? Like the slap in the face is the thing that brings you to the moment. And like honestly, like these plants, like they have possession of me. They do. Like I am in the moment with them more than I've ever been in my life, because I'm listening to see if they're thirsty, right? It's such a different relationship, and I really feel it changing my life. Like. Yeah. And I'm not even trying. They're just teaching me. And sometimes they have to die to teach me. But sometimes they live and surprise me. So
yeah, and also, you know, it's like every morning, the first thing that I do, I'm even in my pajama and everything, I go outside and I check my plants. So it becomes like a routine. So they are really part of, they're like kids, you know, they're part of your everyday life, and you start by making sure that they are fine. And so they create a connection, they create a relationship. And I think that people who are, like I live by myself, so people who are by themselves or older people, you know, if they had plants and if they knew how they could communicate with plants, I think their life would be a little more acceptable. That would be because they would know that, okay, the plant, you take care of a plant, but there are several ways to take care of a plant. It's not only to give it water and then put, it's also that connection, this physical connection with, and spiritual connection with the plant. So they have a healing.
It's a relationship, yeah.
Mhm.
And I guess I feel the same way about art, and I feel the same way about poetry.
Mhm.
So I feel like these are three things that, in a strange way, take isolation, but remove that feeling of loneliness, like, because you're still connected.
It's a presence.
Yeah.
But also you have somebody to, it's not somebody, but it's almost a
Almost.
person that you have to take care of every day. You're responsible. You're responsible for that. If you accept to have plants, otherwise don't have them. Because some people, you know, they have it and they think that the plant is going to be self-sufficient. No, the plant need us.
Yeah. And it turns out we need them too.
Yeah, we need them. Yeah, it's a reciprocity. Yeah.
Well, thank
Reciprocal.
you so much, Marthe. I'm so grateful that you came and spent this time with us and
Well, thank you
touched
so
my
much.
plants.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, it has been very inspiring and yeah, I had a wonderful time today. So we are not talking, yes?
We're not talking. So
So we could just start with
we get to touch first and then we kiss, right?
the idea is to be, I think,